We never thought time itself could collapse and take the world down with it.
Ground unit, this is Overlord 1, ready for mark. Copy, Overlord.
Because we take time for granted. Just like I took you for granted.
We've got a visual on Joyce. Confirmed target, guns hot.
But if I get another chance, I'll make sure things are different.
You're cleared to engage with weapons.
This time, I'll save you.
Somehow I can focus and unfreeze Will, even if the world was still frozen.
What would you say we can expect to see in Quantum Break that we have never seen before in other action games?
Well, I think our time powers are quite unique. Of course, as a whole, if you look at the game, I don't think anybody's pulled off the mix of live action and a game that we're doing with Quantum Break. So that's something definitely ambitious and different. But in terms of like the gameplay, so one of the things we really wanted to fix with Alan Wake, the mechanics, the action got quite repetitive. Like early on, you learned everything you could, and then just kept repeating that until the end of the game. So it's very important for Quantum Break that we have enough different mechanics and different enemy types to keep the action exciting. So we really worked hard to make sure that it's not like your quote-unquote average third-person shooter. So we don't want you to take cover. The AI is designed in a way that it'll come find you if you're in cover, and all the time powers are designed to sort of make the player feel really aggressive and strong. So you can just like time dodge in the middle of enemies, and then they will be kicked back. Then you can use a shotgun and then use the shield to protect yourself, load the gun. And that took a long time to find those sorts of powers that we were happy with, because early on in the project, like we had time powers, and they sort of like you played it more like a traditional cover shooter. You were behind cover and used time powers. We're like, well, this is not the game we wanted to make, so we had to go back to the drawing board and redesign the time powers and get to where we are now. So hopefully that sort of mechanic is something that will make the action exciting.
I'm a huge fan of Max Payne, the arena game. One of the things I really loved from that game was the dark sequences, the shocking stories about personal stories, the bloody stories.
Yeah.
What can we expect here in terms of shocking content, story-wise?
Well, I can't obviously really spoil what happens in Quantum Break, but having said that, it's also a very different experience from Max Payne as well as Alan Wake. I mean, both of those games are very dark in many ways, which I guess is also quite Finnish. The Finnish psyche is quite dark in many ways. And with Quantum Break, we really set out to do like a more sort of big summer blockbuster kind of game. Easier to get into, but the important thing to understand that doesn't mean that it's dumb. It's not like, there's a lot of story in there, and as you know, like story and characters are like super important to Remedy. And there's definitely dark aspects to this, the Quantum Break story as well. But I won't, ruin it. But there's definitely darkness to it. But it's not, it's very different from Max Payne and Alan Wake, obviously.
But let me draw another comparison. Is Quantum Break to TV series what Max Payne was to comic style regarding design?
Right. Well, I mean, yeah. That's an interesting point. I mean, in Max Payne, we did use the comic book comic books to sort of instead of cutscenes because well we couldn't afford to do cutscenes. We couldn't do like really good, well animated cutscenes. So it's always there's different reasons for doing that. But in Quantum Break, like we had played around with live action a little bit in Max Payne and then in Alan Wake, and now we sort of really get to expand on that. It's just like it's an interesting medium. And since we use the live action in Quantum Break to tell the story from the villain's perspective, it's like we don't think like a 20-minute long animated cutscene would have really worked. Like I don't think people would have watched it. And it's also, people maybe don't realize how expensive it is to do cutscenes. Like you need a lot of animators, visual effects artists, and everything. And we just don't like have enough people to do that. But the live action was like an interesting sort of choice for us to use that medium to tell the story from the different perspective. And I think since it is a different perspective, it makes sense that you use a different medium for it.
Mm-hmm. This is, of course, a science fiction, futuristic story. One thing that really fits with science fiction and futuristic stuff is virtual reality. Have you considered a virtual reality version, perhaps for Oculus Rift, or are you experimenting with virtual reality at Remedy?
Well, the answer to your first question is that there's no plans for Quantum, VR version or anything like that. The second question is, yes, Remedy is very interested in VR. We do have the HTC Vive and all of that back in the office. We have a lot of people in the office who are excited about VR, but we're not making anything for VR. But we have definitely ideas on what we would like to sort of experiment with and what to do, because like storytellings and VR, like the immersion and everything would be a pretty good fit for us. But you also have to look at the VR market, and there is no market yet, right? That's sort of the problem. Like there won't be if there's no interesting experiences, right? Mm-hmm. But if you want to make like a really interesting experience, that's going to cost you money, and you need the audience for it. But it's something that we're definitely looking at.
Mm-hmm.
What you do? I said maintain control.
What about the cloud? Because we are seeing with Crackdown that some developers are trying to use that as an added bonus of processing and trying to do new stuff in game.
Well, I mean, if you want to use like the cloud processing power, then you have to sort of design the game in a way to take advantage of that, and that's not something that Remedy is doing. Then again, of course, we are streaming the live action show from the cloud. So there is that.
There's been some controversy recently regarding the Xbox community, and you've recently announced that Quantum Break is also coming to PC, so perhaps the Xbox users are looking for a stronger identity this year as to what games are they getting.
Well, from my personal perspective, I can somehow understand some of the frustration, because like I'm a console gamer at heart, and like console gamers tend to be sort of, these big exclusive games, they're like protective about them. They represent sort of your love of the platform, mm-hmm. if we can say. But it doesn't take anything away from the Xbox One version that there's also a Windows 10 version. It's just the positive thing is like there's more people that can play our game. That's good for not just Microsoft, that's very good also for the consumer and Remedy, of course. We can reach mm-hmm. a wider audience, and that's what we absolutely want. Now, this is first and foremost, we designed it for the Xbox One. It's a great experience on the Xbox One. I mean, Remedy is very detail-oriented. We're going to make sure the game's great on console, but of course we're also going to take advantage of the additional power that like a powerful PC offers. And at the end of the day, it's like it's also a Microsoft decision as well, of course. But I think the fact that you can sort of have more choice in how you play, that's a good thing. But from my console fan perspective, I can understand that mm-hmm. there's some frustration, but there shouldn't be. It doesn't really take anything away from you.
Okay, thank you very much, Thomas.
Cool, thank you.
Oh!